Hi guys, welcome back to Forgetful Scholar, and this week, it's one book. Yeah, I was planning on my usual two, but then this week got really crazy, and I had time yesterday, but I would have had to pack a whole book into one day and rushed it, and because I had some time yesterday, but I didn't want to just force myself to oh, I got a little smudge of lipstick. Anyway, I didn't want to just force myself to complete this book and not give it actual time to see if I like it or not, because then what if I rushed it and I didn't like it because I rushed it, I didn't give enough time. So I decided just to go with one book this week, and once again it is in the triple digits here. My air is off, so let's see if I can actually do this one quickly, because I said that last week and I didn't do it, but we'll see. So this week I did The Sum of All Kisses, the Smythe-Smithquartet, Book 3 by Julia Quinn. And if you follow me on Instagram, you would know that I am not a fan of this cover, because I feel like it cuts off in a weird, just above their noses, their nostrils. Not even their bridge of their nose, but just right here on both of them. And I'm just why? There's plenty of room down here. You could have had both their faces in silhouette. I mean, was that so we could imagine ourselves in their shoes or something? I don't know. I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan of the cover. So this is a historical romance, and I gave this 3 stars. And in my head, it's all about perception in this, the different perceptions from Hugh, which is the hero, and Sarah, which is the heroine. So I gave it 3 stars. This is okay. So in the back, it said that Sarah's a drama queen. So I was super excited for this one, because Hugh is the other person in the duel. So if you remember, the Smythe-Smithquartet books all basically revolve around Daniel, Sarah's cousin, who is a smith, getting into a duel with his friend Hugh, and the stuff that happens afterwards. And man, I really smudged. What happened? Anyway, forgive the smudged lipstick. Let's keep going. Maybe it's just melting off. So that's basically, and I was looking forward to this because Hugh is the one that accuses Daniel of cheating at a card game, and is the other person in the duel. He shot Daniel in the shoulder, grazed his shoulder, and he looked really confused in the first book's, second book, because Daniel was the second book. I read them out of order. In Daniel's point of view, Hugh looked confused, and Daniel, still drunk, I guess, shoots Hugh in the leg that nearly killed him, but left him with a disability, mobility issues and things like that, which made Daniel being exiled for a couple years because Hugh's father is a psychopath. Oh my god, he's so evil, and was trying to kill Daniel, until Hugh figured out a way to get his psychotic father to back off, and Daniel was able to come home. So that's kind of the synopsis. So it's Hugh, Daniel, and their friend Marcus. And Marcus was the first book in this series. And again, loved their bro friendship. Even though Daniel and Hugh try to kill each other, their friendship is lovely, and I love it, right? So this book promised to Sarah to be a drama queen. And I was interesting, because Sarah was a secondary character in the other 2 books. And the book with Daniel's sister Honora and Daniel's friend Marcus, she seemed like a confidant, Honora's best friend, and a confidant, that name, seriously, and a confidant. And she seems, they were cousins, and she seemed like a really nice person. And the second book, Daniel's book, Daniel and Anne, who is the tutor for Sarah's younger sister, Sarah, again, even though she fakes being sick to get out of the musicale the Smith girls have to perform every year, she was very smart, figured out Daniel was after Anne right away. Very supportive. She didn't seem like a drama queen in those 2 books, right? So this book described her as a drama queen, and I got really excited, because that would be different for this writer. And you know, different writers have different strengths, right? I have noticed with Lisa Kleypas's books, whether I like the female leads or don't like the female leads, they're interesting. They're dynamic. They're complicated. You know what I mean? Their personalities vastly different. But her men, I find them pretty cut and paste, right? So with Julia Quinn, I'm finding the opposite. The men are pretty unique, pretty different. They're more or less, for the most part, seem to be a little neurodivergent, which I think is so fun. And so different and so refreshing in a romance, especially a historical romance novel. But the women are pretty cut and paste. So I was really excited to see a dramatic drama queen that isn't like mean, but just, you know, over the top, hyperbolic, dramatic. You know, I was looking forward to that. You know what I mean? But honestly, if you put Hanara, Anne, and Sarah, and you just gave me the description of their personalities, I would not be able to tell you who is who, because they're basically the same personalities. Just, you know, their life stories are a little different, but they're all kind, really care about other people, you know, very selfless. You know, like, it was just like, they're very cut and paste, which is unfortunate. Now, my biggest critique with this author, besides that, is that the banter can be a lot of fun. They're very good at banter, very good with family connections. But with the Smith, I found the first book was way too much banter, to the point where, like, my eyes glazed over and I did not give a shit. And I started to skim till the banter between the cousins was done, because it was just kind of like, wow, I really don't care kind of a moment, you know what I mean? Because, like, it had nothing to do with the plot. Like, we got it that they're close, that the siblings and cousins are close. Cool. Move on. Like, you could cut 2 pages from the scene. Doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So this one, I will say the pacing was really good. There was only one scene where, like, the banter was really kind of a lot, but I didn't hate it. Okay, so this book takes place between 2 weddings. So it's the wedding of Hanara and Marcus, and then the wedding of Daniel and Anne. So this book takes place during that time. It's crooked. Sorry, the camera's crooked. I'm having a day. I don't know if that fixed it. We're gonna keep going. So, takes place during that time. And I was expecting Sarah to bring the drama. No. So, just no. So, because of this huge misunderstanding, and we find out why Hugh shot the gun. And I was like, oh, okay. Because Hugh is a math genius, and also he has an eidetic memory. An eidetic memory is colloquially known as photographic memory, but that's not quite it. And the thing is, you never forget. So, say like a traumatic event, say someone like counting down for a duel triggers a traumatic event in their childhood, they basically relive it, right? So, Hugh was actually reliving one of the many horrors his father visited upon him and his older brother Freddie, which I wish the book had more of Freddie. He comes to sit by Hugh when he's recovering from the leg injury, and they obviously really love each other. And Freddie's gay, which is so dangerous, especially back then. So dangerous back then. So, and like Freddie was really, I don't know, I like that character, and I would kind of love if Julia Quinn did like a same-sex romance with Freddie where he gets his happily ever after. That would be really sweet. But obviously the brothers really love each other, and Freddie's actually the older one. Is supposed to be the heir, but the father knows Freddie's never gonna get married. The father's just evil. The father is just evil. This author did a fantastic job of making this man a monster. And you know I'm bloodthirsty. I am not happy that the father was not killed. I wanted the father to be killed accidentally or maybe self-inflicted, something. At that point, when it's at the end, like literally the last couple pages, when they confront the father, I would have been okay if the hero, Hugh, killed his own father. It was like that was how much, although I am bloodthirsty, so it doesn't take me a lot to be okay in literature for people to kill other people or movies. Anyway. So Sarah's supposed to be this drama queen. And the first meeting they have is a flashback, like about chapter 3. And I was like, okay, I'm liking this. This is fun. She is different. So basically, Hugh goes to an engagement party of a friend. And when the friend tells them that Daniel's mother and sister are there, Hugh goes to seclude himself in a room off of the ballroom and wait for the party to end. Then he could sneak out because he doesn't want Daniel's family to be, feel awkward or be pushed out or be harmed anyway. Because this is where, for me, this is all about perspectives and things like that. Because from Hugh's perspective, and since we're reading in Hugh's POV we're not reading Hugh's POV at this point, but since we know what went on and that Hugh is the reason Daniel was able to come back, and then all this time Hugh has been trying to figure out a way to get his father to stop trying to kill Daniel, we know he's not a bad guy, right? Hanara and her mom leave. Sarah was with Hanara, and she feels very angry that her cousin and bestie was sort of pushed out of this ball she was having fun at because of Hugh's presence. And at this time, we know that Sarah doesn't know that Hugh is the reason Daniel is able to come back, that Hugh is the reason, that Daniel's kind of safe when it comes to his father. We don't know that. We don't know how hard Hugh's trying to fix the mistake, a drunken mistake, right? And how much Hugh has paid for it. Because the duel left him, like I said, with mobility issues, also with chronic pain. And I think that's another thing why I really, really resonated with Hugh as a character, because I too suffer from chronic pain. And I think the author did a great job in showing how, what else can you do? You just have to deal with it. You know what I mean? And how you mourn things you can no longer do. Like, he used to love to dance, and he can't dance anymore. He can't hunt and things like that, right? And he feels very, emasculated because, especially at that time, there are certain things that gentlemen did, right? So he can't do those things. And it's just, the author did a really great job with that. Really fantastic job with that. So kudos for that, right? So she confronts Hugh, and Hugh doesn't know who she is. He knows that Daniel has, a bazillion cousins. He knows their names because identity memory, but he's never met all of them. So he doesn't have face to name recognition, right? And she's sort of like, how dare you, sir, no gentleman. And she kind of goes off on him in a very dramatic way. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be fun. And he's like, who are you? I do not know her. Do you go here? It was, I enjoyed that, right? So they get off on the wrong foot. 100% wrong foot. The thing is, Sarah doesn't stay like that the whole time. Because she's upset that her cousin and aunt were forced out of a party. She's upset that Hugh and Daniel, she's like, Hugh's the reason Daniel's gone. But she's more upset because this is her third season. And the first season she was unable to attend because their family went to the country because of the duel, right? The scandal of the duel. So she kind of blames him why she's still not married. And I was like, okay, you said drama queen. I want a drama queen. That's pretty drama queen-esque. I like it. But that's kind of the only time we see her being self-centered, And one of there's a really great Johanna Lindsey book where the heroine of the book was the villain of the book before. She almost married the hero of the story when she was the bad guy, all this stuff, right? Ophelia, her name was. And you don't think you're ever gonna like her. In her book, you do. You find out why she is the way she is. You find out she can't trust anybody. And when she starts to trust the hero, you see who she is inside and you root for her. That was fantastic. It's one of my favorite books. So I I kind of wanted that, you know? I wanted Sarah to be like kind of bitchy, and then we find out really valid reasons for it, right? That was kind of the only time she was very over the top, right? So they're kind of forced proximity because all these weddings are going on. She's sort of surprised. Well, not really surprised, but like Hanara, he's invited to Marcus's wedding, and Hanara wants him to have a good time, so she asks Sarah to like kind of keep him company, all this stuff, right? He bonds with Sarah's youngest sister, who's obsessed with unicorns. It's very, very cute. He laments that he can't dance. Like, he mourns, you're with him when he mourns he can't dance anymore. And I was like, oh, not being able to do the things you used to love, that's a thing. Ooh, that's hitting close, you know? Him living with constant pain, and how like just sometimes it hurts, sometimes it hurts less. Like, it was a great job, right? So I was kind of disappointed because from after that first meeting, Sarah's just like every other female Julia Quinn that I've read so far is the same. Like, kind, cares about her family, selfless. Like, you see her move a table around so he could put his leg up. You know, you see her go out, even though she promised her cousin to look after him, to kind of keep him company, she goes out of her way to do so, you know what I mean? And it's not because he's being nice to her younger siblings. She doesn't even kind of register that. She just is doing all these things. Her cousin Iris, which I think is the fourth book's heroine, she kind of calls her act of not going, like, pretending to be sick, selfish. And Sarah's like, how dare you? And I was like, oh, we can have a dramatic moment. No, she's just hurt. I think a drama queen, I could see a drama queen being like, well, you know, it's not my fault you weren't smart enough to pretend to be sick too. You know what I mean? And I think that would have been kind of fun, kind of spicy. But she's just like, I thought they would cancel it if I was sick. I didn't know they would make Anne do it. So I'm disappointed she wasn't dramatic. And then there's one point where, so to go from wedding to wedding, he is in the carriage with Sarah and her younger siblings, and they squabble the whole time, and that was a little annoying. But I think it was to lead up of them getting into like almost like one sister is stepping on one's dress. She pulls a dress out from under her. She knocks into Sarah, who goes flying. Hugh can't catch her, but he breaks her fall, but he can't carry her in when she twists her ankle, and he feels really emasculated. And I thought from that moment, the big conflict would be like, I'm not good enough for her because I hate myself. Kind of like I thought it would be going in that vein. You know what I mean? Of the whole, like, I'm not a real man bullshit, and kind of do that, right? No, not really. Like a couple days later, after she comes down from her room and she's like trying to get to the library and she's limping, he like lets her use the cane to get there. And it's so stupid because she's like, oh, it's so hard to walk. This is what must you have felt like, learning to walk all over again. And I'm like, what? Because it just, the way Sarah's character was written up to that point, it just made her seem stupid. You know what I mean? Because, like, who hasn't twisted an ankle before this? You're, like, 22 or something, or 20 or something. You twisted an ankle before. Like, you never thought, like, how you knew, you even internally commented of him walking around with the cane and limping and how hard that was for him. So, like, what is this coming from? I felt like the author maybe thought Sarah would come out a lot more selfish than she did, because she didn't come off as selfish. So if she came off as selfish, that moment would have been like a big revelation. I could see where things would start to snowball and she would start to actually care about the people around her. But since Sarah didn't really come off as selfish, I was like, what is she, dumb? Like, what? Did she hit her head too? Like, what is happening? So that was a weird moment. And then, you know, like he later outside the picnic, there's dancing. He dances with her with the cane, and he's like, oh, I've been practicing. And I'm like, when have you been practicing? Have you been practicing for years to dance with a cane because you love to dance? Because the last scene we had, the 2 scenes before we had your POV, you were mourning you couldn't dance anymore. Or when she was in bed healing her ankle, were you teaching yourself how to dance for her? Because I would have loved to have seen that scene. That would have been really cute, I think. And like, I liked, excuse me, I liked Hugh's personality, right? And I liked that he showed a different kind of strength. So in a lot of romance novels, you see a lot of different female personalities and how females can have a huge variant on strength. Internal strength, physical strength, mental strength, spiritual strength, you know. And the guy is kind of always the same when it came to strength. I loved Hugh because he had an internal strength. Because imagine, 1800s, you survive a wound and half of your muscles cut out. You can't bend your leg. You teach yourself how to walk again. There's not doctors, there's no PT assistants, there's no antibiotics, there's no painkillers, nothing. You teach yourself how to walk again. You know what I mean? Like, you live every day with that kind of pain. And he's like, he has this own internal rule. He breaks at one point because he's really upset, but that he only drinks after 5 o'clock if the pain's really bad, because that's the only thing he has to numb it. You know what I mean? So like, that is some fun. That guy, I was super impressed by him. Because let me tell you, I need my gabapentin, which is a non-narcotic painkiller. I need it or I am not functional at all. So like, the fact that he doesn't even have anything to help him, not even Tylenol, you know what I mean? And like, I love that it showed a different kind of strength in him, you know what I mean? And I really enjoyed that because, you know, it's great to have different kind of male heroes in these romance novels. And I like that he was socially awkward because he's so smart, you kind of lose a little bit, you know, and like socially, he's not the best. He's not horrible. It just seems that he processes what they say and it takes him a beat too long to answer back, you know? So it gave an impression of like a computer almost processing and figuring out the correct response, you know? So I thought that was fascinating. His father repeatedly, it's just like his childhood was horrible man. He basically tricks you into meeting him into a hotel because Hugh comes because he doesn't want his father that close to Daniel, right? Who, in this book, Daniel is the drama queen in this book, which is surprising, but also a little bit of fun. But also I was like, yeah, Daniel, you deserve that black eye that Sarah gives him by accident. Because, of course, he can't get married to Anne without a black eye. That wouldn't make sense. So Daniel makes the third act complication. And again, the sex scene doesn't really happen to like literally the last chapter. There's some stuff before that, but not before like page 250. So I guess that's just a thing with this writer. That's fine. I would like the scenes earlier, but all right. Each writer has their own style, right? So he makes Hugh tell Sarah about the bargain. So the reason why Hugh's father isn't going to kill Daniel anymore, because Hugh put it in the contract that if something happens to Daniel, Hugh would kill himself. And Daniel's making this huge, like, such a dramatic thing, right? And at this point, I really, like, Sarah was fine. I thought she was a nice person. You know what I mean? And in this weird conversation, Sarah finds out that Freddie is gay and finds out what... And that was an interesting thing because Sarah didn't know what a man being interested in men meant. And I realized how sheltered they are, you know? The women of the ton. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot how sheltered they are, you know? And I liked her at that moment because she's like, oh, you love him? I'm sure I love him too. You know, there was no... like, ew, that's gross, which I was kind of like, oh, please don't do that, you know? And it especially for those times, that the fact she's like, oh, if you love him, I'm sure I'll love him, which I thought was sweet. And then he tells him about, like, the devil's bargain. And then she gets super dramatic. And, like, woe is me, which was interesting. An interesting choice. If she was like that the whole time and then, like, slowly became more caring of the other people, and that was a backslide, I could see that, but, like, the beginning and the end is when she was like a drama queen, you know? she's crying about woe is me and all that stuff. Hugh goes to his father because the father's too close to Daniel. It worries him. The father like knocks him out, ties him to a bed, and like lures. Oh my God, what is wrong with me in that word today? Get Sarah there and locks them in a room so she's compromised, so they have to get married. Hugh was gonna ask her to marry him anyway. So the stakes didn't feel very high. The only stakes that felt high was Hugh being in the presence of this monster he calls a father. Because he really, and I'm not gonna get into too many details, but he is a piece of shit and I wanted him to die. I'm very upset he didn't. I did like that Sarah was the one that figured out a way out of the whole I'll kill myself bargain and figured out a way for him not to be in her and Hugh's life anymore. Like, I'll give her props for that. I didn't hate Sarah. I just, again, if you put her in a lineup with Hannah and Anne and it was just their personality traits, I would have no idea who's who. You know what I mean? So that's my only problem with her. Other than that, she was nice. She was fun. I wanted a drama queen, you know, and she wasn't really bringing that. Just twice. And Daniel was more of a drama queen in this book than she was. So I was like, okay. But, you know, there's a happy ending. Everything's fine. Yada, yada. But I just wanted her to be like this just self-centered drama queen that like slowly learns to care about everybody else around her. But I didn't get that. You know, I just want a little different female characterization from this author. So, again, wanted this to be short, super not. So here we are. I don't want to, but it's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.